Hey ESPN, I'm Jack.
And I'm Miles from the Daily Zeitgeist, a daily comedic news podcast that answers the question,
what if Stephen A. Smith spoke at a normal volume and his opinions were based on fact and not completely insane? This probably isn't the best way to describe this.
No, you just negated the two things Stephen A. Smith is known for.
Okay, what if The Daily Show was hosted by us?
Yes, but who is us?
Okay, I'm Jack. I'm the co-founder of Crack.com.
And I'm Miles. I love soccer and get very nervous when I'm pulled over by the police.
He's also a former lobbyist who quit politics for comedy.
Yeah. Well, look, we covered news, the president, pop culture, and we're both very big sports fans.
I'm actually named after my grandfather, legendary NBA coach and ESPN alum Dr. Jack Ramsey.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm named after Miles Davis, the legendary heroin addict who is not my grandfather.
So search the Daily Zeitgeist. If you don't know how to spell zeitgeist, like most of us, just type in Daily Z. It'll figure it out for you. On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are given away for free.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood. Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom. Here's Jalen Rose.
What up, Jeff?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cold check-in.
And we are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. What do we do, Jay?
We give the individuals that love our program what they want.
What they desire.
And what they need.
We do. Every single day. Happy Friday, everybody. Driving home from work. You did it. It's the weekend.
Gotta give them what they want.
Get home.
Gotta give them what they
Open up
need.
the fridge.
Hey!
Grab yourself a refreshing beverage and settle in and listen to the rest of Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. We're going to start here with a basketball contest between the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Clippers. Just as the contest was beginning, just as it started, 40 seconds of game time has gone by. Draymond Green is chirping at Paul Pierce. Here's what he said.
Chasing that farewell tour, they don't love you like that. You can't get no farewell tour, they don't love you like that. You ain't got that type of love.
Why is Draymond talking to Paul Pierce 1 minute into the game?
I want to quote the great American philosopher David Jacoby here.
Great American.
You can be mean if you're funny.
Yep.
Last time I checked, Paul Pierce does play for the Clippers.
He does.
Draymond Green does play for the Golden State Warriors.
A lot more than Paul Pierce does.
One of the individuals is on the floor, playing at an all-star level. Had a triple-double this year without scoring 10 points. The other one is going to the Hall of Fame, but he's on his lost tape years with the Clippers.
He dressed, though. I was impressed that he dressed. Because there's been a lot of suits on the bench for the Clippers this year.
And take it from a player that's been in that spot, that played 30 to 35 minutes and then was getting DNPs. You got to watch what you're yelling at the guys that's playing. Because now you give a chance for them cats to clap back at you. And that's exactly what Draymond Green did. It's all fair. It's all in bounds. You salute the legend when he retires. But right now, you might face him in this year's playoffs. So you got to let him have it, especially if he got the nerve to talk.
I like it. And you know my thing, anyone listening to this show knows that you can be mean if you're funny. And it started just me. You don't get a farewell tour. They don't love you like that. I was like, oh, and he said, you're not Kobe. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. I was like, all right, now you're being funny. But here's my problem with this. Paul Pierce's response. He waited until after the game, until he noticed that it got picked up by mics and became like an internet thing. So he's like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get on Twitter. I'm going to go after him. He tweets, 73 wins, and you thought you was going to win a title that year. Emoji, emoji, emoji. 3-1 lead, oops. Like, that's all you have, Paul Pierce?
That's the opposite of what the great American philosopher David Jacoby would deem as funny and a great response.
It's not that mean, and it's really not funny at all.
No.
And also, I give the Cavs a lot of credit for the comeback. If anything, the shot would have been him getting suspended cost his team an opportunity to win the championship.
Just off the top of my head, I would say something like, because you're obsessed with LeBron's crotch, you lost the finals. Stay out of LeBron's shorts, you get another championship. I'll write these for Paul Pierce. I could probably do another 4, but I'm just not that smart.
Well, he's going to be in the building a lot, working TV, a lot more than he's going to be playing minutes for the Clippers.
Oh, we got a Jalen replacement? We wouldn't have to change the logo that much.
We need a rim shot. That was a good one.
We wouldn't have to change the logo that much. Jacoby and Pierce. Definitely when you get replaced, I'm taking the first spot. He doesn't know. He's a rookie. So you're a rookie in this game,
So
Paul.
you in the building like, come on, Scotty. Come on, Paul.
The truth about Jacoby. Jacoby's truth. So I could son him like that with a little possessive, little apostrophe. Did Draymond kick Blake Griffin intentionally?
Yes.
He did, right? Like, he kicked him intentionally.
And on wax, I've found myself saying this repeatedly. The unique thing about the circumstance is it happens in the way where it's not deemed as malicious as it will be going forward.
Here's the thing. When you're going up for a shot, when you're jumping for a rebound, I get the flailing, trying to get a foul, like when you're in the action of doing something, but when you're lying on the ground on your back, it's hard to do the, like, I was trying to get leverage or find my balance or whatever when you kick Blake Griffin in the ribs.
It's a true issue. It's something that's happened multiple times.
He's a habitual line stepper.
Can be something that derails the Golden State Warriors if it happens at the wrong time.
He's a habitual line stepper.
Other than that, they need his emotion, those intangibles, his versatility. The only player in the league at 6'7" that, for example, when the Pelicans come to town, on either possession, he's going to be guarding Boogie or Davis.
And switch on to Drew Holiday and be fine.
Charged with leading the team in rebounds, also leading the team in assists.
Also leading the team and kicking people.
So,
He's a habitual
as one of the
line
most unique
stepper.
personalities in the game, they need that edge. It just can't cost them like it did last year in the finals.
You want to know the truth about this? He's the real Jalen replacement. Draymond, if you're listening, I got a spot for you right here.
What would the show be called?
Jacoby's Day.
Like Ice Cube, today was a good day.
Exactly.
You be waking up in
they
the
call
morning.
it Day. Yeah.
Joey making the breakfast with no
Yeah.
hog.
No, you know what we call it? It'd be David Jacoby with Draymond Green, but real small font with Draymond Green part. That's how you'd have to say it. All right. The Warriors have beaten the Clippers 10 straight times. 10 straight times. However, when you do talk about the Western Conference finals and playoffs and semifinals, you talk about the Clippers being one of the teams that are competing against the Warriors. Is there something to the fact that we beat you 10 straight times, you are not competing with us?
In sports, absolutely. When I have shown that head-to-head I can handle you, it doesn't matter what you do against the opponents. It doesn't matter what type of win streak you on. When I show up at the gym, I'm thinking, you guys know what time it is. We're going to find a way to win this game. We score 49 in the first half. Okay, cool. Bang. We're going to drop 50 as a team in the third quarter. So that level of confidence not only had me looking at the players without Chris Paul, you got to look a little further and start looking at Doc Rivers.
When you say looking at replacing Doc Rivers?
Not at all. I'm talking about passing the blame for how the team has looked, in particular against the Golden State Warriors. There was a period of time years ago where these franchises were looking eye to eye, trying to figure out who was going to break the glass ceiling. Now all of a sudden they went on, got Grammys and went diamond and sold so many records, and they still can't get their singles off the ground. They're still in the trunk in Los Angeles. So it's one thing to be without your all-NBA guard, Chris Paul, and this does show his value the way they struggle without him. But the reason why I say you have to also blame the players along with Doc, what is he besides the coach to that franchise?
General manager.
And you know what they do during the trade deadline if they see that they're not better than another team? You try to do what you can to improve your roster.
What did the Clippers do?
Ain't that what the Wizards did?
Yep.
Didn't they try to at least add Bogdanovich?
Sure.
Ain't that what
The Raptors.
the Raptors did? At least try to add Serge. At least try to add Tucker.
Nuggets got a little better.
Right. That's what
Thunder
you
got a little
do.
better.
And so when you don't make a move, when you clearly have a window that may be shut on a group of 4 individuals that have been your starters the last handful of years, you now have to point to him not making the move, plus not being able to motivate this current roster.
Here's my question. I've never been in an NBA locker room, so I always like doing this show with you. I get this kind of insight. How is no one on the Clippers, someone in a leadership position, whether it's Doc, whether it's Chris Paul or Blake, walk over to Austin Rivers and be like, shave that? Just hand him a razor and be like, before we take the floor, like, I need that to come off.
Superstition. You
Beard all
probably grow
down
it
the neck,
and then have a good game.
not
Like, I'm going to
going
wear it
towards
forever.
the ears. It was like his beard is like his shooting percentage. It's like 40% there. That's basically what it is. Oh,
James
come on,
Harden,
Reg.
like, I'm
I
never
can't get a
cutting
rib shot
mine
for
off.
that one, Reg. Come on. I deserve one for that. Okay, Jalen. If you're listening to this show or this podcast, you are probably familiar with the history that JaVale McGee and Shaquille O'Neal have. It sort of escalated and blew up last night. We're going to get to those details in a second. But one thing I want to just start as a foundation of background information is that you yourself and Shaq have gone back and forth on Twitter before. I remember it. As it was happening, I was like, is this serious? Like, or is this not, or is this kind of like a game? How would you characterize Shaquille O'Neal's sort of social media persona and in your interaction with him? How'd it go?
So, me and the Big Diesel are 100 now. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I'm looking to drum up something old. I'm actually acknowledging what you just said to tee this topic.
Yeah, this isn't about you. This is about JaVale McGee.
This is
and
not
Shaq.
about me.
It's not about Jalen Rose.
Okay.
But you did go back and forth with them.
This was a time when I was on First Take, and I was talking about the final four teams left in the NBA playoffs, and he was a member of the Boston Celtics. Not the Heat, not the Lakers. And I said at the time that of the four remaining centers, he was the least productive.
I think that's fair.
That was an accurate statement. He or somebody he knows was watching the show, and then obviously he wanted to attack me personally and or assassinate my character. Here's what I don't want fans and media to continue to do. Don't think that you're going to try to take the side of the person that had the best career. The person that scored the most points, the person that has the most championship, the person that goes to the Hall of Fame. Because every time you do that, I'm going to give you the flip argument that athletes going to use. And that is, well, how can you talk about sports and you never played? So I want to lay the backdrop. When you say that, the defense mechanism of an athlete is now going to turn to you and say the exact same thing.
And I remember even just like 2 years ago, Shaq tweeted like some sort of Photoshop about you, and it just kind of like, but it was just more like fun and games, it felt like, than it was like actual insults. And Shaq, to me, is one of the funniest superstar athletes we have. Like, I think he is funny. Like, he's got a big personality as big as his body. And I think he does a great job on TNT, and I think he's really entertaining. However, he towed the line last night on Twitter. You know, with Shaqtin' a Fool, he likes to get at JaVale McGee a lot. JaVale McGee is the MVP of Shaqtin' a Fool. JaVale McGee, to be fair, does a lot of questionable things on the basketball court that lead to him being the MVP of Shaqtin' a Fool. Shaq did a movie parody, basically calling JaVale McGee Dr. Strange. It was well done. It looked like they put a lot of work into it. It was well shot, and then it was a cute little bit. JaVale McGee did not like that. A back and forth on Twitter happened, most of which I cannot repeat here on this family program. But at one point, JaVale said, "Forget being on a good team. I'm a grown man. You've had these bleep in your mouth for 5-6 years now. You thought I was just going to stay silent." And this is where Shaq, I need you to help with this one. Shaq says, "Don't be acting like you a G. I'll smack the bleep out of your bum bleep. You the one that be looking stupid with your dumb bleep." Is Shaq physically threatening JaVale McGee, or is Shaq just messing around like he was with you?
There are a lot of different ways to go with this. And as somebody that respects the game, biological father, played in the game, grew up around the game, playing on milk crates, playing in my house on hangers, fortunate enough to play on every level, middle school, high school, AAU, college, pros. Like, I didn't just fall in love with basketball. It's in my blood. One of the things that encouraged me to want to get into media, besides being close to the game, is that I didn't like a parallel that I saw taking place that became a level of disrespect when doing analysis. And a firm way for me to distinguish this was name calling. You can be critical, but it's unprofessional to be personal. That's two different things. And so when you're analyzing what you see and you have an assessment, and newsflash, a lot of times there's no new ideas under the sun.
There's no such thing as
So
a new
I
idea.
know if you're 10 years old or 5 years old, you probably think Shaq and the Fool is the first bleeps and blunders.
Exactly.
Or the not top 10. Or the first thing that people has done to show people do faux pas and make mistakes. Like, it happens.
Yes. I've been producing sports television forever, and believe me when I say this, there is no such thing as a new idea.
And so if you want to isolate any player with the history in the league, you could do that to anybody. You could do that to Michael Jordan.
Sure.
Show him getting scored on, show him shooting bricks, show him shooting air balls. Like, that level of footage you can actually do to anyone. Now, JaVale McGee, based on his on-court persona and some of those situations that he created for himself that are actually funny video clips. Taking off from the free throw line when you had no chance. Going the wrong way on defense when your team has the ball. Like, there are some that are funny. Here's another parallel I want to give you guys now. There's critical and personal. There's funny, Shaq and the Fool. Then there's flagrant, Dr. Strange. Now you just called me a name. See, now it's way different. And I love the Turner Show just like everyone else. I know for a fact, in doing this for a really long time, they're going to get an email or they're going to get a phone call from the league.
Because Charles cursed or because of this?
Because you're not just analyzing one of the 441 players in the league, you're now demeaning him. This is way different than doing analysis of what happens at halftime of a Golden State Warrior game. I'm not finished. I allow you to tee it up. Now allow me to be Barry Bonds here. Did you know how many intentional walks Barry Bonds got in a year versus Bryce Harper last year? That number is staggering. But with that being said, it's easy for you to say that because nobody has never called you out of your name. See, just think about this. JaVale McGee has been dealing with this for years and never said anything until he was called out of his name. So there's a distinction. He didn't have thin skin from day one, the first month, the first couple of years. And by the way, he's dealt with some trials and tribulation. Got a contract in the league, out the league.
In the Drew League.
In the Drew League, in the D League. Like, this is a young man that's trying to find a way to feed his family and play basketball. Now I get lucky. I get hitched on to the Golden State Warriors. I should be allowed to live. Give me an opportunity to earn my keep with this squad. Don't have me going to the bus every day and fans snickering at me and my teammates getting a chance to now have to defend me because you're slandering me. Like, that's what this is. And let me tell you what this tweet is. What I talked about just then was what happened on TV. This is called bullying. When you say, don't be acting like you a G, I'll smack you. Like,
he's not serious, though.
Shaq.
He's not serious,
Hold on.
Jalen.
Shaq is an officer.
Okay.
Shaq is also 375 pounds. He also knows martial arts. There's some things you don't say to people. Like, you don't say screw somebody if you don't mean it. You also don't say these things as well. Because what about if they found each other where Shaq's there for work?
That's going to happen.
JaVale's there for work.
It's going to happen.
And now all of a sudden they have an altercation of any sort. Verbal, physical, or whatever. If Shaq put his hands on somebody with his size, you know how much money that'll cost him?
It's not going to happen, Jalen.
Okay, so the reason why it's a bully tactic is our society has gotten so shallow, all of the people are going to say, nah, ha, 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 JaVale McGee, you stink, you suck. You can't say nothing to Shaq because Shaq got 5 rings. But then JaVale could turn to all of you and say, but I play in the league and you don't. You can't and you haven't. And so that's why you don't go there. And I always gauge what happens by if it will happen again and or if somebody will have to walk back what they did. In this case, that's going to be the big diesel. What's up, Jerome? Handle Twitter fingers, uncle. You can't have a big fella out here sending these kind of messages.
One of the leaders of the Warriors responded on JaVale McGee's behalf. Here's what Kevin Durant had to say when he was asked about it.
Shaq wants to make a joke about it, but if it was him in that position, he would feel the same way. You know what I mean? And Shaq, free throw shooter. He missed dunks. He airball free throws. He can't shoot. He couldn't shoot outside the paint. He's bigger than everybody. He didn't have any skill, but he was big and stronger than everybody. And he's still a great player, but you had your flaws too as a player.
I like that Kevin Durant is standing up for JaVale McGee here because there is no one that played basketball professionally in front of cameras that doesn't have lowlights and that doesn't have bloopers, and there is no one that doesn't have faults in their game. We all saw Michael Jordan wearing the 4-5. We all saw it. And Shaquille O'Neal towards the end of his career, and also, Kevin Durant was far to say that Shaquille O'Neal was not a skilled basketball player. He was just bigger. What do you think about Durant sticking up for JaVale?
That's his teammate. They're brothers in this journey to try to win a championship this season. They brought him on a team that really needed help up front. And to my surprise, he's played quality minutes when they needed him to. The question mark is, can he and Zaza and a couple of the other bigs not named, KD or Draymond Green, continue to do that when it's needed to most come playoff time? Again, look at my history. Look at this show. I'm all for trying to have fun and games with anybody at any time. Okay? We laugh and joke and call people stretch mark fours, and this happens.
Mm-hmm. That's calling somebody out of their name.
Correct.
That's not nice.
Correct. But that's in a connotation of basketball still.
Mm-hmm.
It's not calling somebody a physical insult, a name. That's not personal. Like when you say stretch mark four, that could be 150 people.
Well, one of my things is this: as I've matured, I've tried to make fun of people for decisions they make, not things they can't change. Like if you make fun of the way someone's ears look or whatever, it's like they didn't wake up one morning and say, "I want to make my ears look like this." That's just not nice. They didn't make that decision. But a stretch mark four, it's like you're a professional basketball player. You've decided to kind of let yourself go a little bit. So here's one thing I want to point out, and Jalen, I'm finally in a position of expertise here. Because I'm a sports television producer and have been for a decade and a half. And there is a side of this from a sports television producer standpoint that's like, come on, guys. Because now if I'm producing that show, I've got Charles cursing on TV, and now I've got Shaquille O'Neal creating a news cycle about him and a player going back and forth. Now we've got one of the biggest superstars in the game talking about Shaquille O'Neal. They always say no press is bad press, but in this particular instance, something tells me that one of the producers down in Atlanta is going to have a little chat with Shaq about this.
How about Adam Silver is going to have a chat with that producer? Because the Warriors will reach out to them.
The Warriors have reached out to
Turner. The
Turner.
league will reach out to them because, again, I'm giving you some words. There's commentate versus criticize. It's critical, not personal.
And I think that
those are the lines.
This job, we're both guilty of these things. I'm sure if you go back to the 5 years we've been doing this podcast, we've probably stepped over that line sometimes. But in this particular instance, on Twitter, with physical threats, it just got a little too serious.
And there's a level of balance, though, Jacoby. When we are calling out people for certain things, it's not just that one individual we're teasing the most. If anything, we're trying to clown everybody.
Yes.
This
Equal
guy has
opportunity
literally become the face of this level of joning.
Remember Shaq did this with Dwight Howard for 3 years. Like, he does this with big men in the league for some reason. It's just kind of one of the things he does. And, I mean, I'm going to go back to it. Like, I just think Shaq was joking. It's just not funny. And you can't really joke like that. No. And something tells me that you won't see too much more of JaVale McGee on Shaq and a Fool this year. Just got a little hunch there. Just got a little hunch. No. We're talking about Shaquille O'Neal and JaVale McGee. Shaquille O'Neal has poked fun at JaVale McGee through his questionable on-court behavior for quite some time now. He put together a little highlight reel parody video thing, and JaVale McGee responded, and it went back and forth. It escalated. It got to a place that I wasn't comfortable with. Shaq said that he was going to smack him, and I think that Shaq is a gentle giant. Like, he just seems very jovial and happy and funny, and he just kind of like makes me smile. You just shouldn't say that you're going to smack somebody unless you mean it. Because it's like it's either one of two things. You're either kidding, in which it's not funny, and someone could easily misconstrue it, or you're serious, and then you're threatening a basketball player physically on Twitter. So, like, whichever one it is, it was not done well. Nope. You know what I mean? Like, if you are kidding, it's not really funny. It could easily be misconstrued as serious. And if you're serious, then, like, really, what are you up to? So, for me, I feel like Shaq is in the wrong in this instance. And I've said plenty of good things about JaVale McGee on this program. I love JaVale McGee at the True League. I'm very happy that JaVale McGee is on the Warriors.
The first thing JaVale said is forget being on a good team.
That was actually like one of many tweets.
Right, but in theory.
Because Shaq said to him, like, oh, now you're on a good team, you want to say something.
How about he hasn't said anything for years? Like, I don't think he's getting any credit for that. Mm-hmm. Imagine when you're out of the league and this is still happening. The intestinal fortitude it takes for you to suck it up, continue to work on your game, stay in shape, and then find yourself playing with the Golden State Warriors of all team. Oh, man, somebody's smiling down on him. He's living right.
Yep. We're going to move on. Shaq got too much of our airtime. That's too much for you, Shaq. Shaq and JaVale.
He said he was going to come on the show.
No, he didn't.
Remember he tweeted us.
Come on the show, Shaq.
Remember we were talking about Uncle Jerome?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep. Let's have Jerome on the show then.
That's what we need to get on the show.
Jerome on the show.
Here's the
Jerome,
thing that
how's
happens.
this happen?
Here's the thing that happens. When Shaq says, I'll smack you, that means Jerome's going to do it.
He's delegating?
Shaq has too much money. Yep. Too many commercials.
Yep.
You see how many ads that
Jerome?
Shaq in?
Who's Jerome?
Shaq standing next to cars he can't fit in getting checks.
Icy hot. Watch, I promise you're going to see on Twitter an apology, and you're going to see an olive branch extended from Shaquille O'Neal towards JaVale McGee.
It's not going to just come from him. It's going to come from the network. It's going to come from him. And there's going to be a distinct change with how that team is covered, in particular that player, and the terms that are used.
And can I say this as a television producer? Someone worked hard on that little piece, that Doctor Strange piece. Like, it was well done and edited. They shot it. Like, so there was like probably 5 people that worked an entire week on that to make that thing good. And I feel bad for them right now. They're like, oh, I cannot believe that our little funny piece just started this storm. Now the Warriors organization are reaching out to Turner. That's like, this is exploded into something.
We're not here to talk into microphones to be a bully pulpit. That's not what this is designed to do. And every now and then, people on this side get caught up in that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I can understand how it happens. And a lot of it, I'm going to point back to, and I'm going to be old man Jacoby for a second. A lot of it's social media. Because you have that access. Because JaVale McGee can just reach out publicly to Shaquille, make Shaquille feel like he has to fire back. And then it plays out in public in a way because people have this kind of access to each other, to communicate to each other.
And also, too, for anybody out there that's seen Friday, the beginning of Shaq's tweet is really a knockoff from that. When he talks about don't be acting like you some straight up G. Anybody that's seen the movie knows what I'm talking about.
Yep. I had the pleasure, had the honor of watching the end of the Knicks-Cavs contest with my brother Jalen Rose.
100.
LeBron James tried to make a pass. It was stolen by Courtney Lee. Courtney Lee had the ball. And it was like, you could just see what was about to happen. I nudged you because you didn't have I was like, watch this. You could see it was about to happen. Courtney Lee cocks back to dunk the basketball on LeBron James. LeBron pins it to the board. Not just pins it, grabs it, and then dribbles to the corner over to his own bench to celebrate with his teammates, which was a G move I've never seen before in my life. My question here is, why did Courtney Lee try to do that?
It was one of those things as a player where you're caught between yourself and the rim, and then you look in the rearview mirror and you look and see what player it is. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what am I going to do?
How often do you see a uniform, and how often do you see who is in the uniform?
Both.
So
you have court awareness. It's not football. Like it's only 5 guys on the other team, and you clearly have to have peripheral vision enough to see who it is. So when you look to your left, you know if it's Felder or you know if it's LeBron.
Here's
right? Here's
one thing I want to say about it. I didn't play in the NBA, but I play a lot of basketball. And here's the one thing that the Courtney Lee needs to keep in mind. LeBron turned the ball over. And you know that feeling. You know, if it was someone else that turned the ball over, LeBron wouldn't hustle back like that. It was because he turned it over, so he was mad.
And also, too, he didn't have the angle and wasn't really in front of him.
No.
See, both of those things play into it as well. So now it's like, if I can dunk, I might as well try to dunk and hope he fouls
A lot of
me.
times you get a foul. And that makes a really good highlight, too.
But a lot of times the difference between a scorer and a shooter, a guy that could probably average 10 or 15 in the league and a guy that could probably average 15 or 20 in the league, you're going to still find a way to get to the line or get that bucket when it's only one person in front of you, even if it happens to be LeBron James. Maybe you go and jump stop and pump fake. Mm-hmm. Maybe you go and reverse it with your left hand.
The jump stop pump fake, it works really well until it doesn't work, and then you look like a fool.
Or you could just pull up from like 8 feet. Like,
he was committed, though. He was setting up his steps. He was committed.
This is why you need a runner or a floater. Mm-hmm. Like, there are different ways to do it, but you think you just go. And here's the last thing. Took off way too early. LeBron wouldn't have jumped. He would have got hung anyway.
That's a good point. I don't know if he was making that anyway.
So it was one of those things that was really set up for LeBron to have a terrific highlight.
Jimmy Butler just said, quote, "Right now, this is the organization that I want to be with." Do you believe him?
I do. Chicago is a great sports town. The Bulls have proven to be a great franchise, just dealing with some dysfunction right now.
He's complained about the coaches. You know, Lil Dang, famously sort of went back and forth with the front office. It doesn't feel like a happy organization or a happy team, and it also seems a little dysfunctional at the moment.
You know what creates dysfunction? Losing. And on paper, when you look at their team, Rondo and Wade, they've won a championship. Maybe they could bring some pedigree to help Jimmy Butler. Oh, that's right. Those are the storylines we were saying going into this year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Super team.
They was going to show him how to lead the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that hasn't worked out so well.
Remember Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler basically just said, it's us and then the rest of y'all.
And one of the things you can't do in this dynamic, if you're really trying to maximize this year's roster, trade Taj Gibson.
And Dougie McBuckets.
You know what I'm saying? That's one guy I know. Gibson is coming to practice, coming to the games, and when you flip on the film, it don't matter if he gives up a play or gets scored on. You know he's trying hard.
Let's be Jimmy Butler for a second. Taj Gibson is no longer on the team, and you've got Cameron Payne and Anthony Morrow.
Morrow can knock down the three, hasn't been making it at the clip he should. This is the Bulls rolling the dice on Cameron Payne, and this is what I like to say about players like off wax. For me and Cameron Payne, it's show me. Because what I've seen is a guy that can't really shoot the three, not accurate at shooting the two, not really a good passer, doesn't really have a right hand, is not strong, and hasn't shown that he can use his ability to create for himself and for others.
In his rookie season, like the first half of his rookie season, I was like, oh, this dude is pretty good. He had like a floater, he was getting in the lane, he was kind of like doing stuff, but obviously the people at the Thunder know more about his game than I do, and they don't play him that much. So now he's known as the guy that dances next to Russell Westbrook.
And the great thing about this is his chance to show and prove.
That he can dance with Jimmy Butler?
Can he be a starting point guard in this league?
We'll see. Because some tells me Rajon Rondo is not long for that spot in Chicago. Paul George said this about the Pacers franchise and your man, Larry Joe Bird. Quote, "It's kind of a dark moment of uncertainty. That was the frustrating part. You want me to be your guy here. I thought I would have been in the loop a little more on that." Huh. Yesterday, you were trying to convince me that it's just back to business. This is kind of what happens in the game. This is part of it. No hard feelings, nothing personal. Doesn't seem like Paul George feels the same.
Unless you're Carmelo, Dirk, or LeBron, and you have a no-trade clause, maybe one of the 4 All-Stars that play in Golden State, newsflash, your name is going to come up on phone calls.
It's going to come up.
Even if they're joking.
And the other thing is, they're not going to tell you about it either. They're going to come down and say, hey, Paul, I got a couple offers for you today, but we didn't take them. But anyway, here are the details.
I'm going to give the realest spiel of anybody out there that has an agent or a manager. some of the most important things that are said about you and your career, always remember, you're not on the phone.
It's always terrifying when you say that.
Okay, so while you expect your words to be articulated 100%.
And your interest to be the only thing that your representation has in mind?
There's no stenographer on your agent's back when he's talking about your situation.
I always get scared when you say this.
You get the Cliff Notes version. That's how this works. And as a player that's played for multiple teams, been traded a couple of times, I got traded from the Knicks. I got traded from the Raptors to the Knicks the same day we played one another. I woke up in Toronto and flew back with the Knicks that night. So I'm seeing people say, oh, man, what an adjustment for Boogie going to the Pelicans. He had a week. Mm-hmm. He got traded on Sunday and didn't play till Thursday.
He was already there.
NBA, that's dog years.
He was already there.
He practiced with them, got to meet everybody,
He did a photo
got to say
shoot
bye
with the
Sacramento,
uniform on,
got
yeah.
to say hello in New Orleans.
With
Like,
shopping
that's
for an
how this
apartment.
works. All right, I got traded from the Pacers to the Bulls at night, got on the freeway, woke up at 7 in the morning, took a physical, didn't even meet the team to the end of shoot-around, played that night, scored 30-plus, and we won.
You were so mad that night, I can tell. It's how you start your book. It's the first chapter of the first paragraph of your book is that story. That hurt you, I feel like.
Well, because there are moments that, as an athlete, when you're not an all-time great, and I'm clearly not, when you're not a Hall of Famer,
You're
which
an
I'm
all-time
clearly
pretty
not.
good, though. You're an all-time
But
pretty good.
In order to have staying power and productivity consistently, there are different challenges that you have to endure that the rest of the world isn't going to care about.
No.
But they have to mean something to you if you're going to play 13 years like I did.
It's a good point. I think when people say, what was Jalen Rose's NBA career like? People are like, oh, yeah, he got traded a couple times. That must have been hard, but he persevered through it. That's not what people say. So, yeah,
Correct.
He was pretty good. Played for a long time. He's a veteran. I remember him. Jalen, Ben Simmons is now officially out for the year.
No surprise.
I think this is actually really, really good for him.
Yes.
We've talked about this. I feel like
Excellent.
this kind of red shirt thing is good for him.
There you go.
It's good for him. The Blake Griffin thing. I think it's nice to get used to the league, the lifestyle. Oh, and another thing. They're trying to lose games. So maybe you shouldn't play your best
And you
player.
get a league check. You get a chance to ease yourself into travel and how
Training,
practice
personalities.
works, the coaching staff and everybody that's around. And now you come in as a second-year player, you get a chance to win Rookie of the Year. You have an advantage over the guys that come in next year.
Justin Bieber went down to Venice and played pickup basketball.
Love it.
Here's the thing.
Love it.
People don't know Venice Beach. It is the white man can't jump basketball courts. There are probably 10 courts around, maybe less, 6 courts around. It's a great place to get a pickup game. There's always a game. It's not always the best. It's not always the worst. It's beautiful sunshine. There's people in swimming trunks all over the place. It's a nice environment. It's a really nice environment. And people always say to me, oh, where do you play basketball? I'm in Los Angeles. I'm in town. I don't know where to play. Go to Venice Beach. There'll be a 3-on-3 game. There'll be a 5-on-5 game. There'll be a game of 21. Anything you want is at Venice Beach. My question for you, Jalen, would you play harder? Because I know you dial it up and down when you play basketball. If you're playing with Justin Bieber, would you play harder?
No. I play at a different speed versus indoors versus outdoors, period. I don't care who's out there because I'm not trying to fall on the cement.
One thing you learn about people that get paid to play basketball is they do not like to play outdoors.
And you're not trying to fall. Those two things.
Yeah, to me,
Those
it's
are those two things.
To me, I didn't think that professional basketball players would be so soft. I didn't think they would be so soft. They would lose their roots.
No, it's I've fallen on the cement and or on the court more times than
Do you know what you said
probably
yesterday
so
off
many
wax?
people that are lined up.
You said something yesterday off wax. I'm about to bring up on wax that we talked about without you. You were wearing some Jordans, and I said, I don't really see you wear Jordans. You kind of got me off of Jordans, Jalen. And then you're like, yeah, I'll probably just ball in these once and then get rid of them.
What?
That's not what I said.
Something like that. Like you,
But
you
that's
treat,
not- that's not
you
what I
treat
said.
basketball shoes like disposable razors. Like you can't ball in them more than 100. Like I ball in my shoes like 200 times before I get rid of them.
I said I'm going to rock these once. Once you do, they're not as crisp.
Of course not, but that doesn't mean you got to throw them away or give them away.
Third time, I didn't say I was going to do that.
I'm going to keep interrupting you.
I said I was going to hoop in them. is what I said. Or work out in them is what I said.
I understand the one wear with the T-shirts and the socks, but the one wear with the shoes is too much. Like, even Fat Joe is like, that's too much. You're like, DJ Clark Kent is like, no. Jalen.
Da, 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 da.
I would get Bieber some buckets. I had the pleasure of playing pickup basketball with Sean Puffy Combs once, and he was on my team. I was like, I'm gonna get Puffy some buckets. Not time to go for your own. Let's get Puffy some buckets. He definitely traveled on one of those buckets. Didn't call it. You always hear these stories about people tearing up the rental places, like the Airbnbs or whatever. It's always someone famous tearing up an Airbnb. Here's the thing. If you rent a place from somebody, they're going to notice if you tear it up. Mm-hmm. They're going to notice. If you rent my house, and you put some holes in the wall, I'm going to notice, and I'm going to charge you for it. Then people aren't just going to let that slide. Fetty Wap rented a $2.1 million mansion in Puerto Rico. Last July. The timeline is interesting. They said that the owner found holes in the walls, blunts scattered throughout the house, bed linen missing, and, quote, stripper lingerie strewn about the place. What? There was damage to the property's golf carts, and now he wants $50,000. My question for you is this. How come he didn't bring this up 8 months ago? Like, if it happened in July, how are we just hearing about this now?
Because they probably try to settle it off wax. They probably try to reach out to him via letter, let him know that he was trying to get management. They're trying to get paid, he or she, and once they didn't get a response, that's what you do to a public figure. You try to make it something for the public to decide. Try to win that debate before you even get to the courtroom. But the difference between being an entertainer or an artist versus being an athlete, they're not held to the self-esteem, role model restrictions and expectations as athletes. And I think that sheer distinction comes from athletes, one, because there's a level of school that you still have to endure and accomplish, because if I'm going to be a high school player, I still got to be eligible.
Yep.
I still got to get into the college of choice if I'm a McDonald's All-American. People a lot of times are invested in you, and your behavior can not only mess up your name, but mess up their money. You follow that? Mm-hmm. As opposed to being an entertainer or an artist, you're an independent contractor. Yeah. It's all about you.
Little controversy might not be bad for business.
No doubt about it.
Might not be bad for business.
So some of the things that Snoop Dogg can promote aren't necessarily things an athlete can promote.
No. Not at all.
Because they're viewed different.
Now, you know you're not going to get anybody's sympathy for this. But I do like it when you say, I wish I was a rapper. It'd be so much easier if I was a rapper.
No doubt.
You know,
I so wish I was an entertainer or an artist. It's not even close. I would be walking around with Mr. T jewels on all day. No doubt.
I will never ever wear expensive jewelry because it just makes me feel like someone's going to take it from me. And I wouldn't do anything. If I was wearing a chain and 6 dudes came up to me and were like, run that chain, I would take it off nicely, polish it a little bit, and then hand it over. That's what I would do.
Not promoting violence or thievery.
Texas has a new coach, gentleman by the name of Tom Herman, football coach. He used to work at Subway. Here's what he said about the experience. Quote, I used to love the pastrami. They had those big walk-in refrigerators. I was standing there one day with the door shut, just throwing pastrami in my mouth. It was like something out of a movie. I've got this bin of meat, throwing meat in my mouth. The door swings open, and it's the owner. He told me to get out and not come back. I have a lot of questions about this, Mr. Rose.
Okay, cool.
Number 1, do you like pastrami?
I deal with pastrami, love corned beef.
Oh, you have a lot of people don't even see the difference.
In the D, good for your belly. This was back in the day when you actually made, before, you know how Subway setup is? Mm-hmm. When I was young, again, Lou's Deli in Detroit, it was right off 6 Mile in Green Lawn, where I grew up. you could actually go in and physically make your own sandwich.
Really?
So you know how in Subway somebody's making the sandwich for you as you go down the line?
Yeah.
You're actually making your own sandwich as you go down the line.
See, you can't trust the public like that.
Nope.
I'm not trusting the public like that.
That's where times have changed. I used to be in there getting full.
I'm sure. And the meat was probably in there getting dirty.
Yep.
There's a gentleman in the National Basketball Association. Government name is DeMarcus Cousins.
Boogie!
Here's what he had to say about how the Kings dealt him. Quote, a week before the trade, the sick part about it is that Vlade came to my house with my agent. We sat in my theater and just talked. That was maybe 3 weeks ago. We sat there and he told me what moves he wanted to make. All of that I just didn't understand. I got a text from the owner right before I went to All-Star. He was asking me about a player, how I felt about him, and making a move. The owner. When it happened, I was just in shock. I didn't understand. Did the Kings do Boogie wrong?
No.
I don't think so either.
Nope.
The thing that stinks is when you know you can sign an extension for $209, and then you find out you can now sign one for $179.
$30 million is a lot of money.
Yep.
He embedded himself in the community off the floor. I appreciate that from players because so many take their check, move to the suburbs with their families, put their kids in private school, and never get back to the community.
Yep.
So I applaud that. Standing ovation, including the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy, which he's not from Detroit and never played for the Pistons. So I understand how to differentiate between the personality I see on the floor versus the one I see off. And he's allowed to clap back to an organization that after they traded him, they did say we needed the culture to improve. We wanted to make sure the attitude around
Character
here
is really important to
got
us.
better. And so I don't see anything wrong with now when he has microphones in his face and he's asked about his old situation. They drafted Hassan Whiteside the same year as they drafted him. The next year they drafted Bismack Biyombo and Isaiah Thomas, and then went on to draft Thomas Robinson, Nick Stauskas, Jimmer Verdette, Ben McLemore. Had 5 or 6 coaches, had 9 or 10 coaches, had 5 or 6 decision makers and GMs in his tenure there. So he deserves a fresh start. They deserve one as well. But the Pelicans clearly got the best of that trade.
Yep.
Just to go the other way for a second on Boogie's statement is you don't know you're going to make a big trade until you make the big trade. You literally, hours before you've accepted it, you are not sure you are going to. So if you have Boogie, you're going to go to his house. If he's on the team, he's on the team. You're going to talk to him. And you're not going to say, hey, Boogie, we might trade you. Because that's not going to be good for you.
Here's what doesn't happen in sports that happens in business. You know how in corporate America you're allowed to give your 2 weeks? Mm-hmm. It don't work like that in sports.
No.
Those 13 days, I'm going to tell you I love you because I want to get the most out of you. Then I'll trade you on the 14th day. Mm-hmm. That's how sports works.
Another thing, one thing that's different about sports and business, which is something that people don't really take a 10,000-foot view on and look at, is if you graduate from Harvard Business School, you interview with a lot of different companies, and the two of you make a decision whether or not it's a match. When you play 1 year of college basketball and you are a prospect that's going to get chosen in the lottery, you are selected. You don't pick where you work or what company you work for. You are selected and then put into that position. It's a hard way for regular civilian human beings to understand that that's how that business works. Because when I decided to work at ESPN, they made a bad decision and decided they needed me at the same time, and we worked out a salary together, and we worked out roles and responsibilities and location where I would work. It's not just like all of a sudden you graduate college and someone says, oh, you're going to work for Prudential Insurance in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And next thing you know, you're moving to New Mexico. Where you get drafted means a lot.
Yep.
Here's what else Boogie had to say. They asked if there's any part of him that wants to speak with Rana Divac or Divac.
Nothing to talk about.
He said, nah, for what? It was a coward move So I'm pretty sure I would get a coward response. For what? And I've seen this happen before. I've been there through all the same types. I was there for Mike Malone's firing. I've seen how they operate. I know what kind of answer I'll get anyway, so what's the point?
Anytime a player gets traded, they can also refer usually to how they felt it should have been done different. Mm-hmm. There's no real way to do it other than to call the player and or the agent to let them know that it happened. But you can't do that until it actually takes place.
Yes.
And a lot of times you're not in control of when the okay is actually going to happen with the other team. Then it gets approved by the league. So you can't prematurely announce it to the player, to the media, to anyone until it actually the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So it can become an awkward conversation, and usually it is.
And even if it's good news, like as anyone who's managed an employee, like don't tell someone they're going to get a promotion or a raise until it is on paper and done deal. Because you just have to, in business terms, you have to deal with certainties, not hypotheticals. There's a drone in China flying around, filming a gang of tigers. First of all, I didn't know that tigers were this prominent in China. I hope this was a zoo environment because there was at least 6 of them, and they were coordinated in attacking this drone. They took down the drone. That's not what I want to talk about, Jalen Rose. At my house in Los Angeles, on 2 occasions, a drone has flown up to my front yard, hovered there, and checked out my family. What? What would you do in that scenario?
I think it was in Ohio when this happened previous, or New York, when the person who was being viewed by the drone saw it flying over its backyard while the adult's daughter was in the backyard wearing a bikini.
That is weird.
And he shot the drone out of the air.
I think you have every right to throw rocks or whatever you can at the drone. And my wife, I wasn't there during these time. My wife said she was angrily gesticulating. She said she said that the drone couldn't hear her, so she was just making sure that she used her arms and body language to let the drone know that she wasn't happy with it, and it still stayed there. If you are watching me and I don't like it, and you're using a drone, I'm throwing rocks at the drone.
Yeah. That goes no different, and we don't know the details, but sort of similar to the conversation we had about Darrelle Revis.
Yeah, we don't know the details there, but it is kind of similar. Don't film people or watch people if they don't want you to watch them or film them. It's just simple. You know what? I've got kids. Here's what I tell my 3-year-old son. I'm like, if you learn anything, treat other people the way you want to be treated. There's a reason they call it the golden rule. It's really the only thing you have to know in life. It's the only thing you have to know.
And you got to learn the 2 most important words in the English language.
There's 3 words.
It's actually 3. One of them is please.
Uh-huh.
The other 2 are thank you.
I'm going to say thank you is more important than please.
Those 3 words.
They're training eagles in France to take down drones.
You just love this type of news, don't you?
This is the show I want to do.
Right.
I want to talk about eagles and tigers and drones.
I seriously think,
you want to talk about Shaquille O'Neal and JaVale McGee. That's the difference between us.
I seriously think there's a part of the rundown where you're in the office and you're focused, and unfortunately you got to do the stuff like you just mentioned and I want to talk about.
Exactly.
And then it seems like you might take a magazine somewhere and you come up with these other topics.
Where am I going with the magazine?
To the bathroom.
When we want straight talk, we go to you, our listeners. We open up our voicemail line. That's 985-80-JALEN. Let's listen to the first caller on the Hotline Bling.
Yo, what's poppin', Jalen Jacoby? Been a fan for a number of years now, ever since the Podfather days. I got one question. Who sits in the back? The wife or your mother? Keep getting them checks.
Great question. That is an excellent question. I've never heard this before. Is a hot dog a sandwich? It's kind of one of those things that comes up once in a while. It's a hard question. I have never heard this before. And I'll tell you what. A couple things. One, I keep my mouth shut.
That's
I'm not
easy.
involved in that
You let
discussion.
them iron it out.
I'm not involved in that
That's
discussion.
easy.
I go right to the driver's seat because I'm driving.
That's
and
easy.
I'll let that because I don't want to get involved.
That's the easiest thing for a man ever. You stay out of it.
I'm out of it. My name is Bennett, and I ain't in it. If I get consulted, I'm just going to act like I don't speak English.
You don't hear it.
Exactly.
You don't
I don't hear anything. Thank you so much for the call. Remember, when you call, leave your name and your city so we can give you a shout out. Let's listen to the next caller.
Jalen Jacoby, what up? This is Danny from Santa Ana, California. And I'm going to keep it 100 with you guys, man. I've been trying to get on this voicemail thing for a while now. I'm starting to think that you guys got some crazy formula to pick out these voicemails. So can you guys please share with the audience, with the people, your process for selecting these very few amazing, legit, whatever you want to call it, voicemails. Keep giving people what they want and keep getting that wick. Hey.
Big shouts to you, Danny, from Santa Ana. So, much like who sits in the back, your mother or your wife, we're not really involved in the voicemail selection. We don't want to hear them ahead of time. Nope. We're too lazy to screen all of them. Yep. And we have a brilliant production staff that listens to them all. And we do get a lot of these voicemails, and I'm always curious in the selection process myself, because a lot of time they're setting me up to get clowned, you know what I mean? Or one of us up to get clowned. I kind of feel like the production staff is basically like picking the ones that will put us in the toughest spot. What? That's one of my theories about this.
Well, you clearly know that whatever we do, we appreciate your support, and yours got read.
Exactly, Danny.
And one other thing that's really important. He said very few. Let me tell you something. We got lots. We got millions.
We just can't play that many, but let's listen to the next voicemail.
Hey, this is Liam from Oklahoma, and, I'm just a young 18-year-old child, and I've come to accept that I'm no Jalen Rose and I'll never succeed in the art of basketball, but since I love the sport so much, I want to channel my inner David Jacoby and go after the sports media field. I just want to let you know that you're a big inspiration and a large part of why it's a career I'm going to pursue. Thank you.
I got a couple things for Liam. Number one, just because you didn't go to the NBA, just because you didn't cash a check, you can still succeed in basketball. I was like the third option on my high school team. I played 3 times this week. Basketball it's not just you go to the pros or that's it. You know what I mean? Like this is my favorite activity in the world is playing basketball with my friends. That's my favorite activity. So why not pursue that? That's winning at basketball.
And the important thing about that is playing with my friends. And unfortunately, I've been a friend not consistently playing basketball with you.
No.
I got to step it up.
You keep blaming your shoulder, but I don't think it's the shoulder anymore.
I'm ready now.
I don't think it's the shoulder anymore.
I'm ready now.
Well, you know I'm available.
You've been getting in shape, man.
You know I'm available.
Running 10, 15 miles.
You also know we have to cover each other.
Bike.
We have to cover each other, too. You think you're a little intimidated by my new marathon strength. You're running up and down the floor.
You're getting barbershop haircuts, teeth white.
Teeth are yellow. I got
you know what I mean?
I got to work on that. Thank you so much for the call, Liam. In terms of, people ask, like, what's your advice to break into the media game or whatever, is there's, at this point, there's literally no barrier of entry to be in the media game. You should be writing columns, and you should be recording podcasts that no one listens to or reads, because that is when you get good enough to have a podcast or a column or a television show or a YouTube channel that people will listen to.
And there is a reason why we state that we're in the trunk. Because those were the times that we were trying to be seen, be heard, hone our craft, be on YouTube, produce quality content. And that's why one of the 500 million reasons, besides the fact he's our brother, that we owe this opportunity to the Podfather amongst so many other people at ESPN, because you know what he did that was so genius? Y'all just cooked.
Got out of the way.
Y'all just
didn't even listen to the show.
I'm not even coming in the kitchen.
Didn't even listen to the show.
I'm not even listening to
y'all
like,
show. I got a couple of emails that said your show was pretty good, so I guess we won't cancel it.
He I need to record my 5 pods.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's not listening to pods. He's not even listening to this show right now. Big shout to Bill.
I left him a voicemail today.
Good. You hear back?
No, I just called him today.
All right. He's busy. He's got websites and stuff. Let's listen to the next voicemail.
Hey, guys, love the show. I'm from Memphis. You guys don't talk about us much. I know we're not very flashy, but what do you think of our chances in the Western Conference? I don't know that we can beat any team in the Western Conference, but I think we can challenge any team in the Western Conference. What do you think?
So here's the thing about the West.
Let me just say to acknowledge something. We do not talk about the Grizzlies that much. And you know what? I can't go backwards in time, but let's talk about the Grizzlies right now.
They are a team that I said styles make fights. And playing against the Golden State Warriors, that post-up style's truly giving them issues to the point they beat them a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to pay attention to that.
Yep.
They have a core of individuals that are veterans that's seasoned and been together for a long time. In particular, Conley, Gasol, Tony Allen, and Zebo. Their coach, Fizdale, has done a remarkable job while signing Chandler Parsons in the offseason. You would have hoped that he'd been a knockout prospect for what you paid him. They still have been productive without him playing at a high level, still getting minutes from Vince Carter. And they are a team that, while they will make the playoffs, I'm not counting out them having the opportunity to win a round.
And let me say this. They are currently a game and a half out of the 4th seed.
Yeah, I'm not
They're a game and a half out of hosting a game right there in Memphis. But you're right. People don't talk about them too much. They're not that flashy. Do you know what else people don't talk about? The Spurs.
Nope.
People don't talk about the Spurs. The Spurs are 43-13. They're 30 games over 500. They're just kind of boring. So we sit here and talk about JaVale McGee and Shaquille O'Neal. Let's listen to the next voicemail.
Hey, Jalen and Jacoby, big fans. This is David from Baltimore, Maryland. And my question is, I have a son, and he plays basketball, and he's the tallest kid on the team. But the coach only allows him to play center. I want him to be able to, dribble, and bring the ball up and all that. What should I do? Thanks for what you guys do. Love your show. Give the people what they want.
So I always say this. Every 6'11 power forward has been a 6'1 point guard. And what that truly means is regardless of your height, you can still work on your multiple skills.
Yep.
The ability to dribble, pass, and shoot. Now, when you get into a team dynamic, it's not only about the one player to hone practicing his strengths and weaknesses. This is not an individual sport. And so that's something, if you look at my game, I jumped center when our center got hurt in the state championship. I remember laying in the bed all night like, this is my Magic Johnson moment. I'm going to jump center. I'm going to make sure we win the state championship for the first time at Detroit Southwestern. I need to get on the boards. I need to play around the basket. I need to be a big fella, even though you clearly know I was slender and wore a shirt under my jersey. There, as a player, you continue to push your own skills. So while the coach doesn't want him to play outside of the realm of center because he's the tallest player, that's where when he's outside of the team dynamic, whether in practice or individual opportunities in the gym, he has to still be dribble passing and shooting, going full court, between the legs, behind the back, all of those skills. So now, even though you're tall, when the other players and the coaches see that you have those skills, they naturally progress. When he's grabbing the rebound on the defensive side, going coast to coast, 3-on-2, making a decision left, right, or finishing. And so that's what my advice would be.
Also, I think that being a coach in youth sports is difficult, and being a parent of someone who is in youth sports is difficult as well, because this is not going to be the last time that you have some complaints about the way that your son or daughter is coached. That's going to be part of it. So it's not just how they handle it, it's also how you handle it. And basketball does not stop when the whistle blows for practice. Like, you can play anywhere at any time, and you can have him or her work on those skills during those times. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. We love our podcast listeners. We'll be back 5 podcasts next week, every day, Monday through Friday.
Get what they want.
Monday, we don't have a radio show, but we will be recording a podcast because we always got to leave you with something to
Got to
start.
give them what they need. Hey!